Hey, well, your band has now, it's got a manager, it's played some big gigs, it's starting to get noticed. It's usually at this point in your career that someone in your entourage of managers decides you should work with an internationally famous record producer. And we have just such a person here tonight. He is, of course, England's George Dodd, who's worked with bands such as Tycho Brahe, Tell Me Now, Kiss Kiss Kiss, and the Silent Twins. George, welcome. Make yourself at home. George, you have a reputation as an international producer.
Oh, I think internationalism is very important, Andrew. Recording the bass track in Kenya, doing the vocal in Mauritius, perhaps putting down the synth drum in London, and then it's really what I do is make all those things sound as if they were recorded in the same room. That's where the art really is in record production.
But you're the man that's famous in the industry for laying down 2 beats of a triangle in Alaska. I mean...
Well, that was very early in my career, and I'm not very proud of that one. There was the time I spent in Mauritius putting down the bass line for Tycho Brahe's first album. That was very challenging. Mauritius was perfect for the bass line of that album. Mauritius had some particularly fine restaurants, and it created an artistic ambience that I certainly benefited from, and I'm sure the band did too.
So it's a junket?
Yes, I think it's fair to say that.
All right, well, if I could move on then to you, George Dodd, the producer, and of course you're particularly famous as being the man who believes in guest artists.
Oh, absolutely. Mark, Phil. You've got to have them. Mark Knopfler, Phil Collins.
Yeah, of course.
You've got to have them on your album, or it's just not a goer. You won't get past 30 with a bullet.
But you have Mark and Phil on every album.
Yeah, well, it's important. I mean, the importance of it can be demonstrated. Dire Straits recently broke up. Everyone knows Dire Straits broke up. The reason they broke up was because Mark was too busy to play on their next album. So the only way they could get Mark to play on the album was to break up and create the illusion that they were a different band, so Mark guested on their next album. Yeah.
That's extraordinary.
And it's all politics, it's all diplomacy, it's all rock and roll ego, really.
To ensure your future, one of the options I know you believe in is death.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's a good option to consider. Elvis did it a treat. Roy Orbison. Roy, well, I take some personal credit. When I started working with the Travelling Wilburys, I suggested that, you know, they were going to be big, but to get really big, one of them was going to have to die. I was favouring Tom.
Well, I think we all favoured Tom dying, yes.
Bob was suggested, but
who could tell?
Who could tell the difference?
Yeah, exactly.
So Roy, everyone knows what a nice guy Roy is.
Roy the boy, as he's
He just
known.
came forward and he says, I'll do it. And everyone just went, wow.
And it's paid off in a big way.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm here in Australia, aren't I?
Yes, you are. The other thing that you're a strong advocate of, and this goes against the grain for many people who believe in rock and roll as a free-spirited, raunchy industry, is commercialism. I mean, you often say that the Pepsi ad is where it's at.
Yeah. It's an artistic pinnacle, really. It's something to aim for. Everything has to be goal-orientated, and unfortunately, in the current market, selling records just isn't it. A Coke ad, a Pepsi ad, that's where the big bucks are, that's where the creative input can be, and that's where real legends are born. I mean, Madonna was nothing till no one saw her Pepsi commercial.
That's a good point. You can't argue with that. And of course, Michael's career was on fire after his.
Yeah, I suggested that as well.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really? Yes. What a canny man. George, the other thing you're most famous for, and the reason you're here in Australia, is the cause. You believe in the cause as a career option, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Bands have got to get not only a legendary status, but street credibility. And a good way of doing that is sort of honing yourself onto a cause. There was Live Aid, there's Ferry Aid, there's Farmers Aid, and now my latest baby, and something I'm very proud of, and way past time, is Tax Aid.
Yes, yes. And if I've got this right, Tax Aid is basically musicians singing for themselves.
Oh, exactly. Musicians work very hard, so I think it's about time the punters gave a little back.
And we have now a world premiere. I feel just like Richard Wilkins. A world premiere of the documentary of the making of Tax Aid.
Tax Aid, the day rock musicians from around the world stood up and sang. Not for starving Africans, not for farmers or victims of ferry disasters, but for themselves and their right not only to earn an awful lot of money, but also to keep it.
And I do watch television. Listen, Sting. Maybe the rainforests won't be there tomorrow, but the way you're going, neither will most of your investments. Prioritise, Sting, prioritise.
Brought together by internationally famous producer George Dodd and the well-known firm of accountants 12 Oaks, Brewster and Munt, Taxaid will be, in the words of one participant, the statement of what rock and roll is all about: greed.
I'm really very proud to be part of all this, because I think if you can't stand up and fight to have your own personal level of taxation reduced, what can you fight for?
After endless days of negotiation and planning, finally it was time to record. At midnight, the wankers started arriving. Mass hysteria broke out as everyone tried to give everyone else their autograph.
Do you want it or not? No.
Listen, I've been taskmaster for a month.
A sense of occasion was clearly beginning to build.
George, I think your song would be a lot better like this. 2, 3, 4. We won't pay our tax! We won't pay our tax! You can stick 'em up your ass! We won't pay our tax!
Hey, that's really great, but fellas, we've already got a song.
No. I think your song is a load of shit, but this one's much better. 2, 3, 4. We won't pay our tax! We won't pay our tax!
With the basic rhythm tracks having been laid down by some of Australia's leading drum machines, George Dodd begins to fine-tune the performances of his stars.
You dig into your pocket. What key are we supposed to be in?
G.
Oh, there you go. I can't sing G. Let's try F.
Oh, no, I've got a problem with F.
You're kidding.
No, it's all to do with the way I was treated as a child. It's in the autobiography.
Okay, let's see how C sounds.
You mean like this?
Oh, no, it's more like...
Oh, yeah. You dig into your pocket.
It was great.
For some performers, just meeting each other was reward enough.
What's this?
Oh, it's a music sheet.
I don't usually work with these. What are they for?
Oh, well, the black dots, they're the notes, and the more of them there are, the louder you sing.
So what are these bits here?
What bits?
Down the bottom, under the lines.
Oh, they're the words.
Oh, words, all right. Good.
The really great thing about tonight is that everyone's here as equals. There's a sign on the way in saying, check your ego at the door. If it's not big enough, piss off. I think that just about sums it up.
Shortly before recording, proceedings stop for an amazingly moving moment as George Dodd brings in a former rock star who's been horribly burnt by the taxation department.
Excuse me, fellas. I'd like you to meet Simon. Simon used to make $4 million an album. We're here today for people just like Simon. Have some sesame chicken, Simon.
With all the singing roles worked out, Dodd now has to rehearse the singers as quickly as possible. Just a few run-throughs, and they'll have to record. Dodd knows there's little room for error. The pressure is enormous.
It's you that made us wealthy. We just sang a song for us to have to foot the bill. We think is really wrong.
That guy is awful.
You paid to see us rockin'.
Personally, for me, tonight is a moment that I will never forget. It's not just the opportunity to work with Jagger and Bowie and Jagger and all them, but it's not just a tax thing either, because it's very important. But the main thing for me is that I never got invited to any of the other Aid concerts. Not Band Aid or Ferry Aid. I didn't even get invited to Otter Aid.
I think there's been too much altruism in rock music and not enough looking after number one. Well, what we're telling the world tonight is not that rainforests and food drops are bad, but that full-length leather coats have their place too. Tonight, as I speak, somewhere in the world, a rock musician is dressed unfashionably. That's the message.
Well, there you have it, the documentary, The Making of Taxaid, and George, even that little bit there has whet my appetite to hear the song.
Oh, it still makes me cry, Andrew.
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Australia, shown first in Australia, the musicians of the world together singing for themselves with Tax Aid.
We're not in this for the money. Music was our calling.
The cost of entertaining you is really quite appalling. We pay for drums, guitars and amps, and funny clothes and strings. Our sounds come free, it shouldn't be.
We pay for everything.
Pay our tax. Pay our tax.
We sing and play guitar for you. It's the least that you can do.
Pay our tax. Pay our tax. Get eating on our backs. Pay our tax.
It's you that made us wealthy. We just sang our songs. For us to have to foot the bill, we think is really wrong. It's you that made our record sell. You paid to see us rock it. You put us there. It's only fair. You dig into your pocket.
Pay our tax. Pay our tax. Drugs and groupies originally. One less burden would be great. Pay our tax. Pay our tax.
It's for you we scream and shout. Why the hell should we shell out?
Pay our tax. Pay our tax.
It's a tough life on the road. We think you should share the load.
Pay our tax. Pay our tax.
Cash check, bank cards in the box. Bullion, we ain't gift. The world in which we live in is a world that's full of need.
For haircuts, makeup, fishing line, condoms, coke and speed.
Pay our tax. 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 Pay our tax.
We won't pay our tax. We won't pay our tax. You can stick it up your ass. We won't pay our tax.
Pay our tax. Pay our tax. Pay our tax. Pay our tax. Pay our tax.
And if you'd like to help these wealthy rock stars pay their enormous tax bills, send your contributions to Tax Aid, care of George Dodd Enterprises, The Money or the Gun, ABC TV. Please give generously.
Pay our tax. 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 Pay
Any idea who it is?
Dunno. Must be a drummer with one of them shit bands. Drowned in his own vomit, has he?
Yeah, it looks like him.
Don't recognise him.
What do we do? Call a doctor?
Nah. Call the press, I reckon.
Yeah. Hey, there's another one over here.